Okay, my good point is homestands. Great, like I mean, it was fantastic to go and see how successful the homestand at Madrid worked. From my understanding, piecing to what I've seen in interviews, it seems like Koi got to choose who they wanted to invite.
Right.
And they chose, and clearly KC weren't one of those teams, because I'm pretty sure they would have invited KC instead of GX. But I'm not sure why it worked like that, but it was very clear. They decided, okay, we're going to invite Fnatic G2, GX. I will say this is a subtle flame to Heretics, because Heretics and Koi were rivals for a very long time in ERL, and they invited Giants instead.
So it's like we invite everyone Spanish except you, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Which people may be, if you don't know the law behind Spain, that's like kind of insulting. But what I would say is that that firstly, homestands were great. Secondly, it was run by an org that basically understand how to run homestands, and I would say KC and Koi are the two orgs basically that could run a homestand really well, because they have experience in other games. And we got to see people in front of live audiences fucking up badly because they can't hear what's going on with the additional pressure, and it really makes you appreciate what we've lost over the years by losing this in LEC. And obviously, if you had a homestand every week, it wouldn't be as great, right? But there used to be roadshows all the time back in the day, EU LCS, and I think having the outreach and meeting the fans is really, really important. And I would say that there are a lot of people that became NA LCS or LCS fans. I know because I've met them because they saw Danny's Pentakill live on in the stadium, and maybe they became disillusioned with the LCS because of later events, right? But this is how you turn a casual fan into a diehard fan, right?
So you mean like the experience of being in the crowd as well as just the play on the screen, right?
Yeah, imagine you're a casual Koi fan, right? Like you watch, I don't know, whatever Koi do, like they do that football, like the King's Cup and things like that. Like you go and watch it because you know what you buy from his like streaming or his football thing, and you like to watch his streams, so you've come to support him, and you go and watch that Koi Fnatic game 3. Holy fuck! Like you're now have unrealistically high expectations of what league is, but you're thinking, you're always chasing that high, Oh, any game could be like this. Any game could come down to the last 4 HP Nexus, and that is how I think you retain the long-term fan engagement. And obviously we're an entertainment industry, and this is a good way to get new fans. And worst case scenario, all of the games are dull, they end 2-0, right? And you get to cheer in the crowd, right? But that's what you were getting in the studio anyway, right? But if it goes well, like it did this weekend, which went as well as it possibly could have gone, the long-term rewards are priceless. So it's great that we had the homestand, got to show me a bit about some of the G2 players in front of a proper live audience, which maybe it's better that they know these things now instead of like in the championship upper bracket playoffs. But yeah, just more of these things. It's a shame that we've missed out on this for like 4 or 5 years. Like it's been a long time since the roadshows. They used to have the finals, but I can't remember what roadshows were like 2016, no?
They used to, if you remember, they used to have like they'd go to Spain or France or something like that. I think it was usually the spring split. I'm not sure, but I know it would be like once a season at minimum. Yeah,
Poland as well sometimes, and Scandinavia. Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
even had one in the UK once. Remember, there was one at like fucking the O2 or something. I think was it? There was the famous Gambit SK one where they had like all those players had to stand in because they couldn't get. I think even Heaver played. I think that's why I remember it from doing my interview with him recently.
Sure.
Right, what do you think then, Dan?
I totally agree. So first of all, whenever you go to LEC or LCS, like I'm not even gonna call the studio, it's like depressing. You're sitting there. Well, I've been there both as a coach and as a player, and it's been depressing both times. You look at it, you're sat there, like there's lights, so you can't even see anything, and then whenever you can't see anything, there's like 10 people in the crowd, maybe, or like 20 or 30, and it's like, this is not really like playing in front of an audience. So from a player perspective, it's so cool whenever you like do something and you're on stage, because we were at the LFL days a couple of days ago, which was basically like same stuff. They go to the KC Arena in Paris, and there were like hundreds of people there, and like something happens on stage, and everyone goes wild. And as a player, that's something, first of all, you never forget, and also just seeing it as an event is just so cool because I don't know, like playing in that studio is just so depressing. And it's like I might as well just be playing from home, you know? Like you get your makeup on and you know, like everything's cool, and then you have your routine, and then you walk on stage and you're like, yeah, I'm ready. And then there's like your parents are sitting in the corner, and then you know, like you just said that like this is like the only fans I have here. Whereas when we went to LFL days as well, okay, this is also part of being part of a cool org rather than being part of a not so cool org, because I have been in orgs where you have about 3 fans.
Sure.
But if you go there, and like Solari has a lot of really, really cool fans, you know, there's like hundreds of people there, and they're all screaming like your name or like whatever, and then like everyone's there. It's like, first of all, as a player, that's something you'll never forget. Like there's a lot of things in esports that you're gonna regret, but that's not one of them, you know. So yeah, I mean, this is cool, but it's only cool if you're an org that has fans. If you're an org that has no fans, it's not so cool, because then it's like there were also orgs where we went to, and they have like 3 people waiting there for them, and it's like, yeah, I just took my pictures. It took about 3.5 seconds, and then we're out. So yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, I think.
I mean, it's also fun. It's also fun, like if the fans are booing you, right? I mean, I guess Solari
no, it's
KC
not.
must be. It's not. Oh, I used to love that when it was Brazil versus Turkey.
Yeah.
Like holy moly, I used to love like the tears of the Turkish fans whenever we would. But yeah, okay, fine, fair enough. But
I'm gonna be in. As a player, I'm gonna be in my room at night with a burger, watching the fucking recap, watching Reddit, and just crying myself to sleep if that happens.
Right.
You know? Like,
okay.
So you know, like it's not a good experience.
Okay. No, by the way, I'm with Peter. This is where actually, like, I think that is an underrated pleasure, Peter. I'm with you. It might seem like some BDSM shit, but it's actually fun to make the whole crowd boo you. I mean, I've done some classic ones in CS. I was like when they did like an ESL Cologne in like CS, a fucking German team made the final. I still flamed the fuck up and said they'd be trashed and they'd lose. All the fans were like booing me in the arena. It was hilarious, mate. That was great. Anyway, to bring it all back on the homestand thing, what's good about this is also how the format works, Stanton. I'm now going to make a bunch of negative points, even though it's Peter's good point, which is I was actually going to do this as my bad point, believe it or not, Peter, so it's okay, I can switch that, which is I was going to spin it this way, which is when I watched this like homestand, this Spanish one, the first thing I thought was, bro, if anyone thinks that like the audience doesn't affect the outcome of the game, go and watch this week of fucking LEC. Like, I saw GX play all those fucking splits in this, they're trash in the studio. They were like demons in this fucking homestand. They were like twice as good, and you could even see for real, everyone who played them just looked like half as good. Like, you could see for real the impact. This, like, one, they were clearly like living off the fucking crowd, and then two, you could see which players on the other teams, I agree, we'll maybe get to them in some of my other points, certain players who were on very big name teams did not hold up under the pressure of having a hostile crowd and the essentially what would be an away game in sports. Like, you could tell some of them had never experienced this, bro. Like, let's just say maybe even when they were in those ERLs going to stadiums, they were on the loved teams where they were getting all the praise. You could just tell. And I agree with you, Peter. I'd rather know that now in fucking partway into like spring than at Worlds, which remember, there's years like that COVID year, you only find out if you brought a rookie in. At Worlds, he's a failure. Like, even the finals are in the studio, so you never actually get to know, does this guy choke or not? So that, in theory, I'll spin it the good way though. So the good thing is you actually get to test people with that. I do think, by the way, I've changed my whole perspective on this. I actually think at this point in my career in esports, I've seen so many big tournaments. Like, I can find value in the group stage game or like, you know, like a regular season match. But the real thing we're all watching for is a playoff match in a stadium with crowd noise and excitement that goes beyond just like, what does the guy with his hands do in the server? You do want that. Like, I even have learned, I actually think there's two things that are mega underrated about why everyone always, you know, everyone, even in other games, always bigs up Counter-Strike. Like, wow, it's such a great game to watch. It's so easy to follow. I always tell people it's not just the game. There's 3 factors, but one of them doesn't apply to this point. One, but you're ignoring, all of you, is if you're from League of Legends, they run every fucking region like a league. And I'm sorry, leagues are, like, I follow the Premier League, mate. It's not as interesting as the Champions League, because the Champions League is like, can the team win the tournament? Premier League gets boring at certain points. There are certain times where it's interesting, or certain races. There's times, by the way, if someone's 12th, it's not interesting at all. You're just in the middle doing nothing. You're lukewarm. Shitfire reference back to my own shit point about the Bible earlier, whatever, all good. So I'm making that like some deep colour, can't see earlier on the episode. But then also, there's the part where as well as it being, so I think essentially the real reason CS is popular is because one, it's all tournament formats. Playoffs is way more exciting than it's week 7 of another group stage game. That just doesn't get as exciting. 2, it's the fact that you have crowd noise on all the arena shit. Like, think about any great highlight in Counter-Strike you can remember. You can instantly imagine the crowd cheering when like Cold Zero does that jumping no scope, or someone when Simple does a crazy. If that was just the same play, the exact same play on your screen with all the same pixels, but no crowd noise and just the commentators like, wow, what a great kill. That it doesn't hit the same way. It doesn't. We're all plebs in some sense. Like these things, like social condition of like, wow, well, the people are cheering. That does matter. Somehow that gets you hyped in a way. In fact, I think the ultimate example of this surely is how Koreans do esports, because we don't even know fucking Korean, but we all know if you watch that broadcast, it's hype as fuck, isn't it? Where they're all like, mate, you just get hyped listening to that shit. Even though it sounds like, by the way, it does sound like absolute cats. Like they're just jamming the fucking mic with a million words, but hype as fuck though, isn't it? And then lastly, I also think the thing in Counter-Strike people miss is this. Because Counter-Strike is rounds, so between each round you have like a reset in a moment where you're not playing the game, that actually makes it better for the camera angle, because then when the guy with the camera comes down and you're in the spawn buying the weapon, if you see the red light come on, that's basically like, right, here's 5 seconds to do something funny for the camera. And in Counter-Strike, by the way, they are unbelievable at being entertainers if they're like veteran pros that have been in a million stage matches. So essentially, to tie that all in, actually, that's what you're seeing now. Like, listen, you can't do it in the gaming league because the game's one continuous object that keeps going. And obviously you're not just talking like pauses and stuff. But the point is, you saw in this as well, another thing this allows you to do, live environment, is you can be an entertainer. You can be the guy who bigs up the crowd. By the way, think of Worlds, when Bin took off that fucking jersey on the way to the final, that was baller. That was almost as good as some of the shit he was doing in the game, mate. That got you hyped as fuck. So stuff like that I think is awesome. I think that basically when people talk about what they mean, I agree with you, Peter, it's like you said, when people talk about like the esports experience, they don't really mean the dope shit we did in the video game. Maybe to us purists, that's what they think. They also mean things like the time in their life it was and their live experience and what it was like to wait all the hours. That's why actually Americans have nailed one thing we haven't figured out in Europe, which is they do the tailgate where you all go and you will pre-drink for hours before the match and you have the social settings. Look, spoiler, we do just pre-drink at home in Europe, but that's not like a thing built into like the official part of the culture. So I agree. I actually think this homestand was dope. The only downside to me is this, but the problem is this is more of a downside of life, not really the LEC. It is a bit weird that some teams have a home game and then some teams are just playing in the league with no home game. Like, that's a bit like, what? I mean, if we do acknowledge my first point that like the home game clearly affects you, that makes it a bit weird if you're the team that just doesn't get one. But unfortunately, as I said, that's not really the problem of the LEC, Peter. That's the problem, that some people don't come from countries where we can hold the event, and some people have orgs that, as mentioned, have 2.5 fans, and that's people's mums. Like, yeah, at that point you just shout a lot. That's the nature of entertainment business, I'm afraid. I think it's a good point, though. I think it was, by the way, if it was up to me, I mean, I even thought this when I watched this. Part of me watched, I'll tell you one quick dark secret, so we just don't have to waste our time on this. The real problem is this. As far as I know, all live events in esports lose money to run. No one's ever figured out through ticket sales how to make the money back. The sponsorship doesn't cover it. And you also want it to look dope. You don't want it to be in a really shitty venue. So you tend to pick bigger venues that like look really cool and stuff. And so the problem is, essentially, I'm about to say like a naive fan. When you watch that homestand, you think to yourself, why isn't it just like this every week? But unfortunately, the reality is it can't be like that every week. Like, they actually can't run events like that, unfortunately. If people don't know, when this originally was planned, it's even where that term came from, an esports homestand in Overwatch League, the joke is actually COVID saved the Overwatch League, because if they'd have forced all the owners to run those homestands, they were going to eventually try and do it as home and away games. They all told me financially they would have just bankrupted their orgs. You just couldn't afford it in the end. But I do think, to tie it in, at a minimum for things like playoffs, I think this should be a must though. I think every split should have playoffs in a stadium with proper fans. If you want to do a homestand tour, that's one thing, but the idea it's just in an LEC studio, I do think that sucks. I think the idea, like, bro, especially if I think of like Caps' career, bro, like, something meant to like 75% of his titles were just in the same LEC studios, like week 1 of LEC. What is that? You know what I mean? It's really jarring for me because I come from Counter-Strike where, bro, you have like tier 2 events that have a massive crowd like we're talking about here. And also, to tie into the RL thing, the RLs have had this the whole time. I used to kill me, bro. The worst one ever is, at least people respect the LFL. Almost no European fans ever given respect to the Turkish league. But I've always said, yeah, but if you go watch those Turkish playoffs, they're fucking sick, bro. It's like a CS major or something. People are going crazy. And you can see there are people who live and die off that pressure for sure. Like, it gets to some... That's what I want all esports to be, in theory.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah, yep. No, go.
You get competitive advantage, but frankly, like if you have lots of fans, get a competitive.
You deserve it, yeah. On some level, you do, yeah. You do.
I mean, yeah, that's all. So.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, nothing else to say. I agree.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
It is what it is. Honestly, I just don't really understand what the esports like model is to even like gain money. To be honest, at that point, so I don't even know how they can even afford the all these like live events. To be honest, so it's just like.
Put it this way, as far as I know, it was described to me by people who've been execs at the top level in esports as basically you almost do run the live event as part of the sort of advert that like esports is a real sport. That's actually the real reason you sort of hold the event. Because if you think about it, right, it's not even just a venue. You want it to even be famous venues like, oh, it's the O2 Arena in the UK. Oh, it's a football stadium. Like that's even half the market. It's essentially just marketing, Dan. It's a real dark secret, unfortunately. But at the moment, I mean, there's a very obvious reason I'll just give everyone quickly, which is if you go and see Taylor Swift in concert, it's going to cost like €300. You're going to go for 2 hours and then you're going to get the fuck out the building. If you go to the same venue for LEC, it's going to cost $30. You're going to be there for 8 hours and you're going to have crazy expectations. So unfortunately, like the costs just don't make any sense as far as I know. Like if you know compared to normal sports.
Were the seats even full in the during the games?
It looked like they're fairly full, right, Peter?
Yeah.
It looked like they did a good job. Yeah. Okay. I'll even say as well on that one, by the way, if people don't know, that's another area in esports as to why you've all been tricked. Because in your brain, you think, Thorin, it's not true. I've seen all these stadiums packed. Oh, don't worry. Until very recently, it was even still the trend in esports to just fill seats with people off the fucking street if you can't get. Because the worst thing ever is to have the stadium half empty. So, like, put it this way, if you know one of the most famous Counter-Strike events ever is that kind of Itse one, as far as I know, until only a few years ago, they used to also run at capacity where if there was seats empty, they would just let people come in for free. Because they just wanted to show bums in seats. So, but you won't make any money off that, obviously. It's a bad business model.
but I mean, I think that there's certain orgs that will always fill a stadium. Like yes. KC will always fill a stadium. Koi will always fill a stadium. I'm pretty sure Heretics would. I'm pretty sure if Solari were in LEC, but if Solari were hosting an LFL thing, then they could definitely do it.
By the way, in general, Peter, I would say that this is one area where actually we almost do need like people to get out the microscope, the magnifying glass in esports. Because notice how it's just the LFL and Superliga, mate. Those leagues have just got the orgs that have figured out how fan engagement works in a way like some of the best LEC orgs never have. They really have. They're so far ahead of them, right?
Yeah,
but that's only because we actually have like in our like leagues, you know, like most of the good owners from LFL are actually people that are like doing content.
Yeah, that's true.
Like this, and like if I look at the LEC, like I don't know any of the owners like from like, you know, like knowing them or like their streamers are just generally like not that super well known and stuff. And I feel like you really need like entertainers and streamers to actually make you care about the players because the players are nowadays so busy learning the game. Also, you could put in more effort as a player to do that stuff, like me included during the day. But like that's not really like number one priority. It's like you win, and like then no one really gives any fucks about you if you win or lose, unless you're in the like nice org. So yeah, unless you like either you teach the players how to be more, you know, like I saw like an interview or like I saw like a video of like Dana White, who was like the president of the UFC, right? He told his players, I don't give a fuck if they're booing, I don't give a fuck if they're cheering for you, just as long as they don't do the lukewarm water thing, you know?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And it should be like the same here, you know? Either you get a great player and you tell them like, okay, you just don't have to do anything, just like play good, or you just get some like players to like make some good content and just actually be like entertaining, because like otherwise you like even I mean you're never gonna fill a stadium otherwise. Like great thing about MCOI that, you know, like great, but I don't think any of those players are particularly entertaining. They're just like there because like they have like a lot of the like they have Sky and like they've got all the like Spanish streamers there.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
From like back in the day, and eBuys.
I think Illyria is like.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, but like the rest, like no one cares, you know. So like nothing against them, you know. No one cared about me either. It's it's just a reality check.
Yeah,
you know?
No, of course. And by the way, he means obviously as players. Like obviously Merwin's entertaining as fuck, but maybe not in the way you're meaning. No. By the way, that's even one of the details. If you want to see how marketing works, bro, just go look at the player super. He's one of the most fucking boring, basic bitch players to ever play in the history of the LEC. He's just like, if you looked in the dictionary next to like, what is a 7 out of 10 LEC ADC, it'd just be his fucking face with C super reference. But I'll tell you what, all that shit talk on the mic has fucking made his personality 10 times more interesting. interesting. Like the joke is for real. Actual real world-class ADCs from like Korea have talked about this guy in interviews. Like, that would have never happened if you only played the game. No, I agree. You have to have the personalities too. You gotta sell it, you know.
Yeah, but I think it's also org's responsibilities to like make it so, you know? Like,
agreed.
Like why is there no one like teaching players how to like be a certain way or something? Like, you don't even have to be yourself. You just have to be entertaining. Like, it doesn't matter how you do it, you know? Like, I wish someone had told me this when I was a player. I would have kind of gone off or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like I mean, just like say anything, you know? Like just kind of like create a brand for yourself, and that's like the only way that you're really going to survive in esports, because there's a lot of players that are really bad and get really good spots just because they have a brand.
Absolutely.
So this I mean, it's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, it's all good. Right, we'll transition then.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.